Welcome everyone to Dr. John Bedker's Leadership Podcast, the podcast focused on leadership. The episode will begin shortly. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the podcast.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Dr. John Bedker Leadership Podcast. I am your host, John Bedker. Well, today we're going to do several things. What I call a top 10 list. Why do we do that? I think it's a good time of the year to do it. I remember back at my days at the Naval Academy, and this time of the year it was often gray and cold and raw, and we called it the dark ages. We waited for that spring, the rebirth, the sort of new beginning. Things would come alive and be renewed. Well, I think this is sort of a good opportunity to use that experience, that little metaphor, if you will, on taking this moment at this time of the year, before the spring, into the winter, where we think about leadership, the practices, the principles, the beliefs, the values, things that we carry with us, what I would call arrows in our quiver. And what we want to do is think about this other acronym, and I'll get these acronyms all out of the way up front. There is one that I think is important as we begin this, and that is called FIT, F-I-T. Just like physical fitness or any form of fitness, I think leadership fitness is important. Always staying fit, ready, able, capable. Well, what does that F-I-T metaphor mean? Well, it means F for fitness, something that we are going to do frequently. That is really the F in this case. Frequency. Regularly, routinely doing the practice of these leadership principles. I, intensity. Let me make clear that this is not meant to be loud or vitriolic. It's not meant to be strong or hard. But it's meant to be intense in the sense of passion, of caring, of empathy, of genuineness, and authenticity. You have to be intent and intense about your commitment to these leadership practices. And lastly, of course, is the sustainability factor, which I call time. We have to frequently and intently practice these over a long period of time. That's the sustainability factor. So F-I-T, frequency, intensity, and time. Very important concept to carry with you as you go forward in your leadership journey. Okay, so we're going to begin. One other quick caveat is I say it's the top 10, and it is. I'm going to mention 10 things, but I don't want you to think that these are in order of precedence, that 1 is the first and 2 is the second, etc. Not the case. Every single one of these is important, and in your journey, number 10 may be the most important one. Well, absolutely so be it if that's the case. So these are not in rank order. They're not in precedence order. They're just meant to be things that I think at this time of the year, at this time in our world, that we might want to be mindful of, aware of, and, as I've said frequently, with intensity over time to practice these leadership practices. Some of you may be way too young to understand this piece I'll mention in closing before we begin. But back in the day, my day, there was a late night show called The David Letterman Show, and routinely he would do his top 10 list. Now, he's a comedian, a late night talk show, and it was meant to be funny. But oftentimes they would cause you to sort of pause and reflect a little bit. Obviously reflection is something I've spoken about and feel strongly about. It's important for all of us to do. But they would cause you to think. They would raise your awareness. They would cause you to reflect. And I'm hoping that this top 10 list does something similar for you. It's not meant to be a joke like David Letterman or funny, but I'm hoping that, again, they'll cause you to pause and maybe think about and making sure that you are incorporating into your practice. Okay, here we go. Number 1, be proactive whenever possible. Well, having to be reactive, that's the alternative, not the better position for a leader. Now, let's be clear, you can't always be proactive. Sometimes you have to be reactive, and that's certainly understandable, and it will in fact happen. But oftentimes there is that opportunity to be proactive. And this leadership principle says, please think about it. Keep your awareness high so that whenever possible, you as the leader can be proactive whenever possible. Okay, number 2. This is a bit in a similar vein, but stay ahead of the news. Very important for leaders. Stay ahead of the news. If you take the position of no comment, or dodge a question, or, heaven forbid, obfuscation, well, this is not the place for leaders. None of these things. Leaders must be engaged. They must be communicative. And whenever possible, transparent. It is always better for a leader to stay ahead of the news. So that's item 2. Stay ahead of the news. Number 3. Reflect after every working day. Spend time on your people, what they say, what they didn't say, what concerned them. Obviously, think about your business. Reflect on that. And yes, I want to make this point particularly clear. Reflect about yourself. Take that look in the mirror. Am I doing what I can, what I should, what I must? Am I aware of how we perform today? My people, myself. What guidance and direction came from my superiors? Reflect each and every working day. Number 4, seek and maintain a high level of position awareness and situational awareness. These two go hand in hand. Position awareness and situational awareness. Make sure you know what is going on. Situational awareness. Not what you think, not what you hope, or not what you would like to be going on, but what is really going on. Honesty is an imperative for a successful leader. As the saying goes, the truth will set you free. Number 5, communication. Well, this would probably make each and every top 10 list, no question about it, but I want to make it here for you in this way. Communication. Keep track and keep score. Important. And here's what I mean. Who have you spoken to? Who have you not spoken to? When? How often? What? And why? Those key questions. Did you speak with each of these people? your people, your peers, your superiors. Keep track and keep score. Who did you speak to and who haven't you below in your peerage and up the chain of command? Reflect on that each and every day if you can. Think about what was discussed. Think about what wasn't discussed. Who'd you speak to? How often do you speak to that person? Are there people you didn't speak to? Why not? The communication is a challenge for a leader always. So my point on communication, as big and huge and critical as it is keep track and keep score. Who, how many, how often, and why. Number 6, remember, in today's world, do not dismiss politics or culture of your people, of your business, of your superiors, and yes, again, of yourself. Mindfulness and awareness of each of these are key to your leadership performance. Now, many of you that are subscribers, regular listeners, know that I have devoted an entire podcast to this sort of three-legged stool. Certainly the business, key and critical leg. But politics and culture are the other two legs and are absolutely critical to your leadership success. So I make that point here as well in item 6 about politics and culture. For you, your people, your business, be mindful and aware of the politics and culture that surround you. Number 7, non-sibby. Again, a word I've used previously in podcasts, but I want to stress it here. Non-sibby, not for self. Let me expand on that. Not for self, but others. And there is the key leadership piece that I want you to capture and carry with you. As the saying goes, a rising tide does raise all boats. Yes, it does. Don't confuse your business success with you alone. What you did. No, that is not the mindset of leaders. Non-sibby, not for self. Others, we, collectively, made the product, delivered the goods, provided the service. Whatever it is that your business, your company, your institution is about, it is not a person rowing alone. That rising tide can, could, should, and as a leadership matter, I will argue, must raise all boats. Do not confuse a superior's laudatory comments to you about your success to have you think it is yours and yours alone. It likely, and I would argue almost always, is not. Remember, each of you contributed, whoever those people might be. Remember that not only are they part of the success, they should also be part of the recognition. A very important concept for leaders. That rising tide for leaders must raise all boats, which means each and every one of those that provided the goods, the service, or the product that your business or enterprise institution is all about. So remember the collective, the we, the us, the our, the team. It is not just about you. Number 8, have a plan. Make it a good plan and work with your people to make the plan better and better. The point here is continuous improvement. Many plans, many strategies may be needed, employed, and continuously improved. Now, there's lots of literature about this. Some people have this plan, that plan, these 5 things, 7 things, their own lists and ways to go about doing it. I am not here to say that one is better than another or that one is right for you, because each may have a different need and a different best practice. But work with your people to make a plan. Notice the teaming there, the we there, and continuously improve the plan. Continuous improvement is this key leadership practice. I have spoken about one. I'll mention it briefly because it's simple and straightforward, but it may not be the right one for you. PDCA. Another acronym. Plan, do, check, act. It's like a circle, a wheel. You create this plan. You do it. You see how it goes. You check it. You do measurement. You do other things of analytic nature and of human nature. And then you go back and say, we could tweak this. We could improve that. We could change this. We might want to delete something. We might want to add something. And then we act. Plan, do, check, act. Simple system. Certainly not the only, not arguing that it's the best. I'm saying have a plan, make it a good plan for your situation, and then continuously improve that plan. Okay, number 9. Always remember to be process-driven, not outcome-based. It's the focus on processes in their continuous improvement that are the basis for successful outcomes. And as a consequence, profit. So be process-driven, not outcome-based. Literally put a really deep focus on processes. That will lead to proper outcomes, to best outcomes, to efficient outcomes, and as I've said, profitable outcomes. Don't manage the outcome. Don't work backwards. Well, we need an earnings of so-and-so. We need a profit level of so-and-so and work back. Do not do that. Leaders are process-driven, not outcome-based. So, always remember that. Okay, so one last item. As I said in the beginning, this might be the most important one for some of you. And I'm mentioning it as number 10 as the last, because I do think it's important to put this at the end, but it might need to be at the beginning of your current leadership journey. And that is, I want each of you to enjoy your leadership journey. Learning, growing, and enjoying the journey are absolutely important. I've loved my life of leadership. It's the purpose and intent of this podcast. The Dr. John Bedker Leadership Podcast exists solely to help you learn and grow in your leadership journey. So with that, I want you to really enjoy your leadership journey. Okay, just a very, very quick review. The top 10 list for this winter, 2023. Quick review. Number 1, be proactive whenever possible. Not always possible, but whenever you can, be proactive. It is a far better position for a leader than to be reactive. In a similar vein, stay ahead of the news. Obfuscating, not commenting, dodging questions, not a place for a leader. Stay ahead of the news. Reflection. Reflect every working day. Think about those you serve. Think about the people. Think about your business. And yes, yourself. Take that look in the mirror. Reflection. Very, very important. Number 4, seek and maintain the highest level you can of your own situational awareness and position awareness. Knowing what's going on, really and truly what's going on, is absolutely key for a leader. So position awareness and situational awareness should be on that list all the time of really understanding what's really going on in your organization. Number 5 was communication. I talked about that at some length, to keep track and to keep score. I think that's hugely important. It's not just the art and craft of communication, but it's keeping track and keeping score about who you've spoken to and why, who you haven't spoken to and why, when and how often you have spoken to people or not, why you spoke to them, and that relationship not only with those you serve, but your peers and superiors. Think about all of these and how they connect and interconnect. Keep track and keep score of your communication. Number 6 was about politics and culture, the 2/3 of the three-legged stool of leadership that I've spoken about in previous podcasts. But the business, absolutely key and critical, but you must keep track of the politics and culture of your people, your business, your superiors, and as I stressed, yes, yourself. Okay. Non-SIBI, not for self, but others. I expanded that, right? Not for self, but others. Made the point that the rising tide should raise all boats. Your superiors, for instance, might want to pat you on the back, want to give you that raise, that bonus, that attaboy. Never, ever forget that it wasn't just you, that it was a collective. It was a we. It was an us. It was your team. And that they not only need that recognition, but you absolutely, as a leader, need to do that, because that rising tide must raise all boats. Number 8 was about having a plan, making it a good one, but then, and this was the key, continuously improving the plan. Continuous improvement should be part of every leader's journey. And I talked about that, gave an example of one, but continuous improvement is key and critical. Number 9 was about being process-driven rather than outcome-based. I can't stress that enough. I think that's key, again, and critical as leadership practice and principle. Be so focused on processes. That will lead to outcome. And certainly, as I said, that's what leads to profits. So there we were with the top 9. And then the 10th one was, of course, enjoy the journey every single time. It's been my joy, my privilege to not only be in positions of leadership, to teach leadership, to consult on leadership, and now to share with you in this podcast my life of leadership. I enjoy it. I absolutely want you to enjoy it as well. All right, folks, there's the top 10. I thank you so much. It's been a joy. It's been a treat. I hope you enjoy it. Always, I appreciate your comments. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Dr. John Bedker's Leadership Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please tell your friends, and, of course, please follow our podcast and subscribe. Thank you again for tuning in.